I guess I'll record this locally. And it looks like I'm streaming it successfully on YouTube as well. All right. So I guess I hope that this is what you guys are looking for. And I'm noticing that the server population is going up a little bit over time as well, which is interesting because does it imply that somebody is spreading rumors about us? Anyways, okay, so I'll just begin because I think that's what everyone wants. Okay, so welcome everyone. Big exciting news. And this is the validation tour. And if you aren't already aware, Sonic Labs is going to stop validating for the Phantom Opera on the 30th of June, 2026. And actually, let me get an audio check because I didn't ask. How is my audio? Like, it looks like it's recording well in OBS here, but inside Discord, how is my audio level in general chat? Audio check, general chat. Can you guys hear me at all? Audio check. No, you cannot hear me? Okay, that actually helps. Then let me... Alright, what about now? Can you hear me now? Audio check. Okay, you can see me too? Alright, fantastic. Alright, that helps a lot. Okay, so this is the validation tour. And I hope this answers a lot of questions. I gave this exact same presentation internally a few hours ago, and it seemed to be that it got everybody riled up and it got everybody excited. So I hope that it does the same thing for you guys. And I hope that more people tune into this. Welcome, everyone. Big, exciting news. If you aren't already aware, Sonic Labs is going to stop validating for the Phantom Opera on the 30th of June, 2026. Okay. Here is a screenshot of what they've written about on their blog. Here is the stuff about their Twitter. I will be writing an announcement later, or possibly tomorrow, that actually will include this PDF so you guys can review it as a document. There's a couple things here, and one, it doesn't look like they don't make any statement that implies there's like a validation block, which is the rumor, right? But rather what it does say is that there is, they seem to care a lot about this bridge, and we don't. Like, I want to make that clear. We do not care about this bridge at all. We know how that bridge worked before they deployed that bridge because we invented meeting before they deployed that bridge, right? So I think that what they're trying to do is kind of like get out from under the pressure of Phantom. Like, they want to be able to rally their chart faster, I guess, because that makes everybody more bullish. But they perhaps don't understand the whole mead thing. When I designed the whole meeting thing, like, I knew that you couldn't just like, you had to like both coins. And since they don't, like, they're not going to justify the way that works. Additionally, with us, the meeting thing has a time lock. It's meant to be that you can only do a certain amount in a certain window. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, otherwise, it ends up being fucking ridiculous. I thought of all this stuff ahead of time. But anyways, this presents an amazing opportunity for both the Sunny Ridge Circus and anyone who wants to cooperate or coordinate with us on this, really. Okay? What do you mean, Five? I'm about to tell you. We have a few weeks' win of opportunity to gain control over the Phantom Opera and to preserve it and protect it. The first step is to check if it's even possible. Okay? Now, how do we do that? Okay. There are four main areas of concern involved with Operation Carpe Phantom. Okay, that's the big fancy title we're giving this. Validation nodes, API nodes, governance, and repositories. I'm going to go over all that. And these are the four. These will be referred to as the four objectives of Operation Carpe Phantom. Now, what do those four objectives mean, Five? Excellent question. Thank you so much for asking. The point of this presentation is to brief everyone on those objectives, okay, and explain how they can be accomplished. All right. Now, before we get into that, I want to just briefly summarize the situation so everyone is clear on what's going on. All right. Now, you're viewing this presentation because you are invested. All right. Not just financially, but ethically, philosophically, emotionally, etc. Like I am as well. My whole life is invested and will continue to be. Like maybe you are invested in Pyre Phantom or 2Share or FTM or a combination of all three, among others. I am as well. While we might differ in our portfolio construction, what we have in common is we are invested in something larger than ourselves. Okay? Truly, we are invested in a future that isn't as disappointing as the present. Okay? We are invested in a future that can live up to its own hype. We are invested in a future that is virtuous and not villainous. Okay? Five in the Century Circus, that's me, understand your concerns. We share those concerns. We share great exposure to these investments with you. Obviously. If you didn't have these concerns, you would not be in attendance at this presentation. Okay? And if we didn't have these concerns, I would not be giving this presentation. Is that fair, gentlemen? You have not done the wrong thing by sharing these concerns or being invested. Like, I know this because years ago, even before the Revelation Tour, I obsessed over every detail of its design. I really was not going to risk bringing a project in my name to the public that wasn't absolutely the best possible vehicle for you. And for it to be the best possible vehicle for you, it had to be the best possible vehicle for me. And still must be today. All right? We've now been on this journey for a few years with each other, so surely there were stressful times when you doubted the promise of this project, or maybe doubted my tenacity, or my ability, or my commitment. At this point, I hope I've proven how sincere I am about being different than the rest, just a little bit. Yes? No? I don't know. You guys tell me. Thank you, Odin. Well, so I have to ask, like, during the times of extreme doubt, did you not find yourself browsing around other Web3 projects, like managed by other Web3 organizations? And like, I know you have. I've seen the chat. I'm not talking to you personally. I'm kind of referring to everybody in this chat, right? Or like that's ever in this chat, right? Sometimes these projects get openly discussed, and we don't even discourage that really, because if another project was better than this one elsewhere, I would surely want to know about it, because what I would do is I would study it so I could improve my own. Okay. Point being is, even while we face this new crisis, like, you're not mistaken for being here in the midst of it with us. Like, nor am I, nor are we, right? So we will face it together. Like, this is certainly not our first crisis. In fact, back in February, I was in the hospital with appendicitis and possibly almost died. I didn't, but I just want to say this is not nearly our first crisis. Okay, this particular issue, which entails the validation of Phantom Opera, is part of a larger problem. Okay, that larger problem would arguably be the general level of responsibility and competence in Web3 organizations. Is it not? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really. Yeah, thank you. The point of this presentation is not to trash other organizations in Web3. Mostly it's to talk about the actual solution to the situation we're in now. But don't expect me to go anywhere, because the fact of the matter is that shit like this allows us to highlight ourselves. And it requires us to adapt rapidly to what we're in, like what we're in the middle of. But certainly I don't think it gives us anything to be scared of, right? If you didn't think the Century Circus was committed to raising that standard, would you still believe me about anything? And if you believe FIDE is committed, then you must believe FIDE is persistent. And you must also believe that persistence creates success, right? I hope that I've talked enough about what we actually do here, shown enough transparency to our tactics, at least explain some of these delays. I know these delays are probably driving over to the wall, but considering what's happening now, I almost think that these delays were in our best interest, because we would... Had we succeeded, for instance, at launching Learn Pyre maybe in late 2025 and being at PEG now, and for Fandom Foundation to be pulling this shit on us, we might be having... Our problems might be multiple from this, right? So, I wanted to say, you can be assured you're invested in the right place and in the right people. Because as you are invested in me, I'm also invested in you. Believe me, that's how it works. Okay? So to summarize all that, you're watching this because you're concerned with the Phantom Opera's future. FIDE and the Century Circus understand your concern. FIDE is going to outline the strategy to solving this problem in this presentation. We are going to make it. Thank you in advance for your attention, participation, engagement, and even your teamwork. Appreciation for it cannot be overstated. Okay, but how are we all going to make it, 5? Right? Before I dive into the granular details, I'm going to first teach everyone a problem-solving methodology. Okay, that can be used to solve almost any problem in general. Why? Because learning this will help you. Thank you, Alito. In virtually all aspects of your life. That is my honest opinion. All right. Even with Saving Phantom, and especially with Saving Phantom. Now, this methodology is called DEAR and SHEAR, which is an acronym. Okay, I hope you guys are excited. The DEAR and SHEAR problem-solving methodology. It's an acronym. Define, examine, analyze, repeat, study, hypothesize, experiment, apply, and repeat. And the first section there is kind of about defining the problem, and the second part is about coming up with a solution. Okay, so I'm going to now go over a little bit of what that means, right? DEAR and SHEAR are two separate stages, but they of course work together. Define means define the problem you're trying to solve. Give the problem a name. Define the parameters that would indicate the problem exists, as well as the effectiveness of an applied solution. Now, you want to do this in actual writing, even if you're by yourself, because having this in writing for your own reference helps you remain unbiased, not emotional, and not irrational. Because, and I don't mean to point fingers at anybody, a lot of problems are in our imagination. I just want everyone to know that. Like, a lot of problems, if you can't measure them, they might be something you're just like imagining is true, and it's not actually true. Like if you can't measure any parameter of the problem, the whole thing is just like a dream. It's like a nightmare. Like there's no. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not part of your lived experience. Now, examine means you examine and observe the problem based on its alignment with the definition, name, and parameters you gave it. You want to test it. You want to observe the problem. Kind of like as a way to test the definition you just gave it. Now, analyze, again, is to test to see if your definition is correct. Like, so can you observe the definition holding up under scrutiny? So, arguably examine and analyze are kind of the same thing, but it actually depends on whether you're measuring it. You're measuring it versus just examining it. Repeat is repeating it as necessary until you believe you have arrived at an accurate and actionable problem with a name, definition, and parameters. Hope that makes sense. SHEAR. The first letter is S, which means study. Study and search out and research things relevant to the problem as you defined it in the first stage. Okay? So what other problems have similar definitions? What other problems have similar names? What other problems have similar parameters? Is it possible the solution to the problem is already known and defined and accessible? It just might be. And, in the day and age where we have access to search engines and AI and LLMs, it's easier than ever to do this. For Phantom Opera, this is mostly true because there's actually steps and instructions on how to solve these problems. Now, will these steps work? We're going to find out. Hypothesize. Based on your studying the previous step, form a hypothesis around a possible solution to the problem. If a possible solution is discovered from your study, that solution working is a good starting hypothesis. Some people already behave this way almost instinctively. Okay. Now, you want to actually conduct an experiment based on your hypothesis. Put less formally, this step is for testing your hypothesis out. Smaller experiments for the purpose of collecting initial data are ideal when it comes to problem solving. Do you remember when we made howtotellwhentosell.com? That is an example of that step. Okay. Apply. Was your experiment a success? Did your test collect any data that showed your hypothesis for the solution? Did your test collect any data that showed your hypothesis for the solution affected the problem's parameters as you expected while clarifying its name and exemplifying its definition? Like, if so, design a solution for the problem in its entirety and apply it. And this is what learnpyre.com is, in case you're wondering. And yes, it is designed at a much larger scale than How to Tell When to Sell, and it's even designed larger than all of Pyre Phase 1. Okay, so repeat the above steps as necessary until you solve the problem. If your application in the previous step didn't work, you should study your own application, okay, and whether there are specific sub-problems related to it or to your experiment. If 2 or 3 cycles of the SHEAR stage do not yield results, then return to the DEAR stage and revise from the beginning, okay? So it took us multiple cycles through this methodology to get to learn Pyre for Pyre DeFi's marketing strategy, by the way, okay? Like, if you were here for the last few years, you probably already knew that. Almost everything we tried for marketing, whether it was a Genesis event or even buying 5 Discords in the first place or acquiring them, that was part of like the marketing strategy, and like none of it really truly was a marketing strategy, right? Like that, I had to actually just go study marketing and legitimately, like, anyways. So, are you guys ready for some good news? I hope you guys are ready. If you paid close attention to Deer and Shear, you might have already figured this out, but this is so much easier for Phantom Opera than for Pyre. Do you guys know why? Like, this is so much easier. I'm going to explain why in a second. So much easier, so much fucking easier. I wrote that down. Okay. Why is it easier, 5? Well, think about it. Remember the 4 objectives of Operation Carbate Phantom? We got validation nodes, API nodes, governance and repositories. Consider that there is nothing pioneering or even creative about taking over the validation of a blockchain. There are hundreds of blockchains, with a large fraction of them being EVM, with thousands and thousands of people validating their blocks on their own hardware. Like, not only that, but the steps to solve the first 2 objectives are actually provided in the documentation of the Phantom Opera. Okay? These right here are the links. Okay? For comparison, solving Pyre DeFi's marketing problem requires being an inventor, being a pioneer, being a master storyteller, okay? Building something nobody's ever built, to do something nobody's ever done, to achieve something nobody's ever achieved, using technology that nobody's really has much experience with, in order to change Web3 forever and give it an actual non-embarrassing future, okay? In contrast, solving Phantom Opera's node problem requires following the instructions in the docs. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, it's so much easier to accomplish something when somebody else has to write the instructions. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, there's no real pioneering involved here. Okay? Like, that's what I mean when, like, designing a marketing funnel that could cheese the pill of education. And I literally have so much paperwork here for, like, Learn Pyre. Like, everywhere in my life is Learn Pyre. But right now, we're talking about, OCF, as we call it. So they make it so that literally anyone can do this, because that is what Web3 companies who launch blockchains want people to do. They want other people validating their nodes, okay? Like mining blocks on their chain, validating them, okay? Proof of stake. I know it is proof of stake. But let's not glaze over this problem or how to solve it. Naturally, we're going to apply Deer and Shear to all of the 4 objectives. Okay? That's coming up soon. Now, there's a rumor that validation is blocked on Phantom Opera. Well, guess what? It will be using Deer and Shear to determine if this rumor is true. Now, there is zero reason to assume a rumor in Web3 is even remotely true. And frankly, most of you have been around long enough to know this. Why is there zero reason to believe a Web3 rumor? In general, the experts aren't real experts. The leaders aren't real leaders. The information isn't real information. The value isn't real value. The purpose isn't real purpose. And the hype isn't real hype. Can I make it any clearer than that? Like, if you heard the smartest and most trustworthy person you know tell you what color the sky is at noon on a cloudless day, I'd probably still recommend you get a second opinion. And actually, this is the part that I'm going to screenshot and put it in the chat, because I think it's the part that hits the best. One of the parts, at least. Make sense? Now, this obviously doesn't apply yet. This obviously doesn't apply to the announcement itself. But you guys get what I'm saying. Okay. So, do you guys have any questions about that, the few of you that are here? Do you guys understand this statement? Abuelito, is that translating? Okay. I appreciate that, Odin. Thank you. Now, before we jump into more granular details of how to apply Deer and Shear, I will first address the outcomes of this one way or another. Like, how many outcome scenarios do you guys think there are? How does this all end? All right. There's basically 3 outcome scenarios from all this. All right. So the first one, the best one, is that validation has taken over successfully. Phantom Opera continues. Okay. The second one is some type of semi-fork thing where we run nodes in read-only mode, then basically split into a new chain that contains Phantom Opera's history, or something like this. Okay. The third one is we have to migrate PYRESWAP, 2-ohm, 3-ohm, and Z-ohm to a new chain and the related logistics of that maneuver. I don't know. Like, whatever. The third one is, of course, the least desirable, because we don't get to take the gas coin with us. So that means we have to set a new peg. We have to set a new oracle. It's just a bunch of I don't know. It feels like chalking it up as a loss, and I don't think we're gonna. I think we're gonna get more creative than that. To be honest, I think we have a lot of luck on our side right now. A lot of things in my life are aligning in a way that is very, very bullish. I will just say that. Okay. I consider number 1 the most ideal, number 3 the least ideal, but all 3 outcome scenarios can still lead to an overall winning scenario with extreme upside. Now that's for this project, for your portfolio, and for the Web3. I mean that for all three of them. Okay? Make sense? Any doubts? Any questions? But will we run out of time, 5? All right. We should know which one of these scenarios is selected before June 1st. And I'm going to go into why in a second here. At least that's the plan, ideally even middle of May. So if there are further instructions involving something required on your end, we will make sure to make a ton of noise about it at the end of J and the beginning of June. Okay? Here, I will fucking paste this one as well. All right. Either way, we will not be quiet or opaque about what's going on. Just to demonstrate that transparency, as of yesterday, the 21st of April, we now have the required hardware to run a test node. It was an SSD that plugs into a PCIe port. Okay, that's what this is. This was the last thing needed to run both a validator node and an API node. Like, everything else was in this computer, which you can see behind me, right? You guys can see it. This is actually pretty good. Let's see. Normally we don't have this angle. Let me see. Okay, I guess it's fine. Yeah, all right, whatever. I guess I'm actually fine with showing more of it. Yeah, all right. So in that, there's the whiteboard. You guys can see it in the green screen. Okay. This was the last thing we needed, and it came in yesterday. We will be testing the API node soon, possibly starting today. I will, if not today, we will be doing it tomorrow. So literally all of tomorrow, my number one priority is getting the API node running, through testing. Following the instructions in the docs. Make sense? The reason why is because running an API node actually involves less steps than a validator node. It's about, I want to say an API node is 5 steps, whereas a validator node is 10 steps and involves registering the node. If validation is blocked, we won't know in the API node, but also we'll also be able to find out if there's a larger problem as well. So these are both objectives of OCF. So we should have an indication of the feasibility of Objective 2 within a few days from now. And what that means is I don't think this should take more than a couple days tops. I think that we should be able to get it done in a single day. Right. I'm not going to be transparent. Okay. I'm not going to be opaque about what's going on. So if we succeed at getting an API node written, I will write it here in check. Make sense? Because if we get an API node successful, the next step is to get to turn that node off, then make it a validation node. And if we can get a validation node running, we're going to take over Phantom. So before the end of April, okay, let me stop front running my own fucking presentation, okay? And then likely we'll turn off the API node and then switch the node's purpose to testing validation. If there is something blocking validation, it is possible we will know what that is before the end of April. That is the plan. But if there's not something blocking validation, we will know that we can take over the Phantom Opera possibly before the end of April. Does that make sense? That's the good news. Well, sorry, there's more good news than that, I guess, but that is at least the turnaround on us taking action on this. Does that make sense? So we'll find out. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So we'll find out if it's blocking, or we'll find out if it's available. And if it's available, we're just gonna take over the chain. I don't know. I don't I think we'll find out. We'll find out. That's the test. So let's review the 3 outcome scenarios of Operation Carpe Phantom one last time. The 1 is successful takeover Phantom Opera's infrastructure, which you might know before the end of the month. The number 2 is some type of spin-off infrastructure created. And number 3 is moving our projects to other EVM infrastructure. Okay? So which means another chain. We would do some sort of migration airdrop thing. I don't fucking know. Number 3 feels like we got our asses kicked. I don't really like it. In general, I like to be more legendary. Does that make sense? I like to be more heroic. You guys know that about me. All right. Whichever path ends up being taken, it will not be kept a secret from you. The Centered Circus, really meaning me here, will write announcements. I'll provide instructions. We'll make videos, whatever we have to do. Obviously, if we can just maintain fucking management of Phantom, y'all ain't gonna do shit. Y'all just gotta keep hodling and wait for Learn Pyre, I guess. We are going to make it, and we did not come this far just to come this far, as my mentor says. Okay. So moving on, you must remember what OCF stands for at this point, right? So reviewing the 4 objectives of Operation Carpe Phantom. Validation nodes, API nodes, governance, and repositories. And in general, the goal with each objective is figure out how to gain control over what needs to be gained control over, and then gain control over it, or of it, whatever. Understand? Agree? Does anybody disagree? If you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask. Okay, I'm assuming you guys understand and agree. All right. So there's 4 objectives, 3 outcomes. So easy to understand, right? Okay, obviously there's more details to actually accomplishing this. So let's touch on those details. In general, it can be said that each of the 4 objectives have 2 types of requirements. And that is, the one is system requirements, and the second one is active requirements. You know, I never refer to it again as a component requirement. So really just system requirements and active requirements. That's the easiest way to think of it. You can think of it like a game of darts. Eric, I like pasting this one as well. I think this is a good allegory. The system requires there be a dartboard, actual physical darts, adequate lighting, a certain amount of players and teams, etc. Then you have active requirements of likely needing functioning hands, fingers, eyeballs, I guess muscles in your elbow or whatever, the ability to stand, etc. Right? Hand-eye coordination. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So now we're going to go to validation nodes, and we're going to talk about these system requirements and active requirements, right? So Phantom Opera needs a minimum of a certain amount of nodes of validating blocks, meaning computer hardware running the Phantom Opera blockchain software. According to initial research, this is a minimum of 3 nodes. It does perform better with more than 3, obviously, right? Each node needs a minimum of 4 virtual CPUs, 32 gigabytes of RAM, greater than 1 gigabytes of internet speed, I guess, and greater than 1 terabyte of an SSD NVMe PCIe, which is what this is. This is the component we didn't have, okay? Now, however, not all nodes are the same. Ideally, for OCF to succeed, we should want at least 1 node to have this, which is a little bit higher. Now, this computer actually has like 16 virtual CPUs. It's like 32 thread or something like that. It's got that amount of RAM, but what it doesn't have is a 6 terabyte thing like this. So this hardware is just to run the initial tests. If we find out we can accomplish the initial tests, we're going to get a lot more hardware. Does that make sense? Like including a better one of these. Does that make sense? If I whatever I have to do to get the money, it'll be fine. Like I have resources still that I had not tapped yet, to be clear. Okay. The second one is API nodes. It also doesn't cost that much. Yeah, like to be honest, it doesn't cost as much. Like we have burned through money on dumber shit than taking over Phantom Opera. Like the price tag is insane. Like it would. Yeah. Yeah, Pega, actually, my internet speed here is faster than it was in Austin, Texas. Yeah, it's twice as fast. It's kind of bizarre. Now, we did have a problem where the tree kept knocking over the cable. Do you remember that? Like when that happened last year? It happened twice in a month. Like the tree just kept dying and killing the internet. Now, that was frustrating. But the good news is that the tree hasn't regrown fast enough. So the internet here is fast enough, and everything can be hardwired. So we can hardwire everything here. Pega, if I have to move the node somewhere else, I'll move the node somewhere else. Yeah. As you guys know, I have these 2 larger checks coming. I actually got an email on Monday letting me know that one of them is in the final optimization stage before it gets sent to, final approval, which could mean that I also get that money this month, which means that, I don't know, the fact that it's happening now, and if it's the final optimization, then I would have the money before June 30th for sure. So, again, things seem to be lining up heavily in our favor. That's all I can say. I don't know how to describe it. The second objective is the API nodes. An API means application programming interface, if you didn't know. Now, Phantom Opera needs a minimum of a certain amount of nodes providing API. Now, I've heard a minimum of 4 nodes, but this is a bit bizarre here. So, hardware for relaying messaging, communication, information between applications, including the blockchain itself. So, according to the cursory initial research, this is a minimum of 4 nodes. Maybe. I'm not honestly sure of the minimum here, but on chainless.org, in fact, let me pull up chainless.org. If we go down here to Phantom, here it is. if we go down here to Phantom, you can see that there's like a lot of RPC nodes that are still here. Does that make sense? Like this is still what's being shown. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if taking over API nodes is like as critical as taking over validation, because one of these is actually Pocket Network, and we do know them, right? Like we used to have, you know, sponsored by Pocket on every single thing. We still have it posted somewhere. The fact of the matter is that it's quite possible a lot of this will keep running. The latencies are all quite fast, like you still see them at 0.3 seconds or whatever. There's no API that we need to be faster than 0.3 seconds. I don't know. Maybe. And, yeah, I mean, you just saw a flash there, but I don't know if that did anything. It might have just been, you know, nothing. You can see here that some of these are from Phantom Network, RPC, RPC2, RPC3, Phantom Network, RPC API, Phantom Network. Okay, so that one is still quite fast. But there's these other ones here as well. Like they're not dead. You know what I mean? So we're still gonna try to get on here, right? With an API node. I don't know if we'll be on this list, but we can figure that out too. And it just might not be as critical to take over this. This right here doesn't show they're dead. It just shows that they're kind of slow. Maybe. So there's two types of API nodes. One of them is called a prune API, and the other one's called an archive API. You can find this in the documentation for Phantom, by the way. A pruned API node needs a minimum of this. Okay, and an archive API, which we would want one of them. To be honest, if we were gonna do this like with the bare minimum, I would only launch one archive API node. Like the other nodes would be like tertiary. So even if that's like the only node running the thing, it would be okay, because like when I finally get the check, whether that's before June 30th or after June 30th, I'll still be able to save Phantom Opera. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Right. A pruned API node is what we'll be running as our first test. So this little hard drive here is enough to run a pruned API node. Okay, not an archive one, which requires a 7 terabyte SSD, which really you can only buy in 6 or 8. So it would require an 8 terabyte SSD that you plug into PCIe. Not the craziest thing in the world, but that would be what it's required. Okay. Number 3 is governance. Okay, and one area I could use your help with, and I mean it to everybody listening, is understanding Phantom Opera's governance. Like, it's possible that governance functions aren't internal to the blockchain infrastructure itself. I mean, we don't necessarily seize anything related to governance, because it's not really truly a Web3 thing. Like, there's a description of how governance is to be conducted in the documentation of Phantom Opera at this. Like, it seems voting, proposing, are possibly software features of the F-wallet, which is not something we're actually after. Like, I don't know, like, getting control of the F-wallet isn't something that we've, like, on our list. In which case, maybe it doesn't matter. Like, governance would still be desirable to control, because there are things like Phantom's tokenomics and the way gas gets routed that I would like to upgrade. I believe if validation can be secured, it's likely we would de facto also control governance, right? Because validation nodes either accept upgrades as repositories or they don't. Okay, so like, I'll be consulting with everyone and anyone about this. Like, don't worry, right? But again, according to the documentation, governance is conducted by validators and delegators. Not too much to worry about here for OCF, I guess. But if you have any input or clarification with this, send me a DM about it. Because for something that may not be on chain, there's a lot of like regulations about validators and delegators. And like what that means is, like, delegators, like, you can delegate your Phantom even without hardware to a node. Does that make sense? And then you can vote with that. But if you don't vote with it, your validator votes with it. And like, that's interesting. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, that's a really fucking weird, I don't know, like that's fucking weird to me. I don't know how to, like, there's a lot of details with governance that I'm really asking anybody to actually explore quickly, like in the short term, because I'm going to focus on the hardware. All right. Don't take anybody's word for it. Like, research this yourself. This is literally how blockchain consensus mechanisms are supposed to work in their underlying theory. You don't trust any single actor or opinion. You only end up trusting what is agreed upon broadly after separate individual verification. In philosophy, this is called empiricism. All right. Okay. So number 4 is repositories, and we don't have too much more to go. I actually got this done pretty fast. So with this objective, what we're talking about is if you read the documentation or linked in general for the Phantom Opera, you'll see things like Genesis files mentioned, among other things. Genesis files are files you need to run I think both an API node and a validator node, right? Now, I think the only actor requirement is that in the ongoing future, a repository, perhaps via GitHub, be made available for anyone else who wants to participate in Phantom Opera's validation, etc. Okay? Like, if anybody wants to go and just download local copies of all the necessary stuff from the Phantom Foundation's GitHub, as well as these 2 URLs, right? That would help decentralize resilience overall. Does that make sense? Do you guys know what I mean? Like, it's much better to have access to all the files than not have the right one. Make sense? Okay. Deer and Shear, right? Now we can now do a brief rundown of Deer and Shear on those 4 objectives. At least where it's starting. At least where we're starting out right now. Okay. So for validation nodes, we want to define that Phantom Opera will halt validation on June 30th. That's the problem. Okay. Examine. Like, we can see that the 5, at least 3 of the 5 remaining nodes seem to be controlled by Phantom Foundation, aka Sonic Labs. So that can be taken seriously enough. And it is understood that when nodes leave, a chain stops. There's no reason really to repeat this until we revisit this after Shear. Maybe there's a different problem, right? Now, the study would be read the docs for how Phantom Opera is validated and learn how. Okay, I've already done that a bunch. If you guys wanted to as well, I'm not going to stop you. Hypothesize, if the Phantom Opera was validated by more nodes, it would remain online after June 30th. Okay? The experiment is this is what OCF is. Like, the experiment is to see if our initial test deployments, if we can get more validators on the chain. In which case, Phantom Opera won't die on June 30th. To apply more hardware, more nodes, okay? Unless another problem emerges, depending on the results of the experiment. Make sense? Repeat as necessary. Is that easy enough to understand? Like, do you guys have any problems understanding what I just went over? The gist? Okay, thank you, Odin. All right, the number two objective, which is API nodes. Like, it's possible Phantom Opera will lose its minimum of API nodes as well. This is not really known, but like, it's worth finding out if we can at least deploy API nodes, which is why that is the first test tomorrow. Okay. On chainless.org, which is the website I just showed maybe 15 minutes ago, you can see a handful of RPC endpoints that are still online for Phantom Opera. Like, some are operated by Phantom Foundation, others are clearly run by other organizations. One of them being Pocket Network, right? So for me to analyze this, I will be consulting with experts like Pocket. My plan for tomorrow is basically get this going, and as soon as I run into a problem, like if I run into any hindrance, the first people I'm going to talk to is Pocket, right? Because they have to be the fucking experts when it comes to API and RPC nodes, right? And repeating is not applicable unless we have to revisit it after Shear. So for Shear, you want to study the docs for Phantom's API nodes and learn how to fucking run an API node, right? The hypothesis is that if Phantom had more API nodes, it would maintain a higher amount of data integrity. Obviously, right? Lower latency or quicker latency. This is also what OCF is, right? Especially our initial test deployments, which is literally the one tomorrow, okay? Apply more hardware, more nodes. Unless another problem emerges, depending on the results of the experiment. Repeat as necessary. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. It's possible, based on the results of our early experiments concerning objectives number 1 and number 2, that we can have other parties continue their support of Phantom Opera's API while we focus on taking responsibility for its validation first and then API next. Meaning, if our resources are tight before June 30th, it's a higher priority to seize control of validation before it is API. One, it's more critical for how the chain works, and two, it seems like there are other people that are continuing to that are continuing to provide API. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So like it's you got to catch one baby first. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Before you catch the other falling baby. I mean that as an allegory, right? You guys understood? I mean that as an allegory, right? Do you guys understand? Fantastic. It's possible based on the results. I already said that once. Okay. Governance, dear and sheer. I'm really glad you guys are here for this because this is where your help could be helpful. Okay. It is unclear how Phantom Opera's governance will function should objectives number 1 and 2 succeed. That's it. That's currently the problem. The lack of clarity around how governance works with a transition is the fucking problem. Because I don't have the skill set to figure out if it's superstructural or if it's done by smart contract or what. Someone more qualified than me needs to examine this according to the guidelines of Deere and Shear explained above. Like, someone more qualified than me needs to analyze this according to the guidelines of Deere and Shear explained above. All right? And repeat is to be determined. Like, the stuff I said before, like that validators get access to control the delegator's vote. Like, they get, like is that run on chain? There's a lot of weird things about Phantom's governance that makes you wonder, is this done by actual smart contracts or is this done by something that is like reading the chain from API and then handling the vote as like a SAS? Do you guys get what I'm saying? Yes? No? Thumbs up emoji? Thumbs down emoji? Thank you, Odin. Okay. Thank you, Pega. All right, study. I think the best thing to study here would be the repository history of the Phantom Foundation's GitHub. Let me highlight that phrase there, okay? When did the last proposal take place? How did that change management work? Are there smart contracts related to this? How does FWAL integrate with this? Here, I'm going to fucking screenshot this. This is like I should have made this a questionnaire. Like, somebody should actually find these questions out. If you can, you might just save the day, including your own portfolio. Right? Someone more qualified than me ought to do a Deere and Shear for this so that they can be an absolute hero. I'm repeating myself now. Okay. Not joking. If you have the skills to actually look into this, consider this part of the presentation your personal call to action. Obviously, governance is important, right? One of the reasons governance is important is because right now, like, the tokenomics of Phantom are controlled by governance, right? Like, I think they turned off emissions. They didn't want Phantom to print. Like, they didn't want Phantom to print anymore, and they turned off emissions and expansion. And there's no validator rewards. And I believe that's the way they got the validators to leave. They just pause rewards. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, I don't think there was like a validation block thing. I think they just like stopped giving them money. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know. But again, we're going to find out. Like, we're going to find out testing objectives 1 and objective 2 with this little hard drive. Okay. The experiment will be determined by the hypothesis. Applying is determined by the experiments. TBD. Okay. If you even have a cursory ability to navigate GitHub or a block explorer or can work with an LLM on analyzing pasted snippets of code, you're qualified to help messy with this. We need to use teamwork. Yeah. Yeah. Number 4, repositories, Deere and Shear. Okay. It is possible that key files and key code necessary for the ongoing operation of Phantom Opera could be lost if Sonic Labs decides to wipe them from their GitHub or stop hosting the websites that store them. Likely. I definitely think they'll stop hosting the websites eventually. This definitely applies at least to the Genesis files, among other things. If you're interested, the documentation linked in this presentation is a good place to start. Which files are critical? Which files aren't? This is actually also beyond my specialty. Okay. Repeat TBD. I might have like a spare hard drive. Well, I'll be able to do this later. I might have like a fucking 7 terabyte hard drive somewhere. I think I have one in here actually that is barely used. But I don't know. Yeah, like, I don't know what exactly what how much files are worth. I don't know. Okay. This right here, like, there's guidance needed. Okay. Now, I think the best thing to study here would be the documentation for the Phantom Foundation, including the Wayback Machine versions of it. I've already done some, but someone else could focus on this more than me, since I'm currently focusing on the hardware side of objectives 1 and 2. Does that make sense? I don't know why I put a parenthesis there, unless I... Okay. All right. I'm not qualified to give the smartest guidance on the repositories, okay? But if someone wanted to treat all files, folders, and repositories related to the Phantom Opera like it was an unintended picnic discovered by a stray dog, and just massively download anything and everything and have it all local for safekeeping, that would be amazing, okay? It might be overkill, but I'm not the expert. Like, if I had no help here, which again, I might, because I think sometimes people need to be told what to do, and I try to assume people have their own agency, that's what I would tell them to do. But if somebody can be smarter than me and actually determine like what's actually critical and what's useful and what's not, you know, what's like a duplicate, like arguably things that are duplicated we don't necessarily need to keep. But if you have any insight here, DM me or take initiative. Or even if you don't have insight here, take initiative. The experiment will be determined by the hypothesis, applying is determined by the experiment, and the repeat is TBD. Okay, like if you even have the skills to analyze what's needed to do here, please DM me or feel free to take initiative by yourself. The more people that have copies of this stuff, the more resilient we will be. Obviously, okay? Okay. So I hope that cleared things up. That was some big picture stuff, some detailed stuff. Right now, my personal focus on this is the hardware and getting it operating. I have explained what I'm doing tomorrow, right? Because I think it's the most critical choke point. But I can't be focused in all areas, right? So where you can help, those of you watching this, objectives 3 and 4, like a lot of investigation there would help, okay? Legitimately just doing research on those areas of concern and learning them for yourself will be so very beneficial to you and everyone else, okay? And then when you have that information, you can share it. Like, do you want this to succeed? I certainly do. And we will be able to make this success scenario more likely if we work together. Yes? No? Do you have hardware that could already meet the requirements of a validator node or an API node? That is also obviously an area that could use extra support, right? DM me about this, okay? The requirements for a lot of this stuff can be found in the documentation for the Phantom Opera, which is at this. Here, I'll fucking post this one as well. Like, those links are not clickable, but, you know, I'm already expecting people to go, like, a little bit above the bare minimum, you know? I hope this presentation has been useful. I hope you now see this as an opportunity. I hope I'm not talking too fast, but I think I am. There's obviously immense upside in succeeding at this for a variety of reasons. Not only is there financial upside to being a validator, but there's also great brand value in Phantom's history. I want to say second only to Ethereum itself, it's probably still the chain with the most exotic and unique DeFi built on it, right? It was once in the top 20 market caps. If we succeed in Operation Carbate Phantom, it's a testament to the robustness of decentralization as well. Does that make sense to whoever? Okay. You now have an idea of where things stand, and you have a strategy, and you can now know at least a strategy on how to change the future. Don't stand around waiting to be told what to do. Like, the first objective, like the first thing to say is review this presentation as a PDF. I will probably announce it tomorrow. I will announce, you know, it takes a minute to like upload to YouTube and stuff like that, but I'll write an announcement tomorrow with all this in it. Plan on when you can find time to provide assistance with this stuff. It might just be setting time aside to read the docs or the repositories. Like, if it doesn't make sense to you, ask an AI to help you understand things. Like, the more clarity, especially on objectives 3 and 4 we have, the better. We will definitely make better decisions when we can rely on more information and more cross-verification on what is real and what is not real. That is literally how Web3 is supposed to work, right? Like, so today 5, like, yeah, I 5 personally invite you to contribute your effort towards that future today, right? After this presentation, I'm going to be installing the 2 terabyte SSD Okay. That'll probably be Thursday, really, to be honest. Like, I have to, anyways, okay. This will make it above the minimum hardware requirements for both a validation node and an API node. And hopefully by the end of Thursday, we might be successfully running an API node. Okay. And if we're not, I'm going to call Pocket about it, among other experts, to help me achieve that. And we need to rapidly learn about as many possible problems as we can so we can rapidly deploy as many possible solutions as we can. And you can help. Okay, like today, like this week. Consider the story that will be told of this effort once we win. All right? Isn't that something worth participating in? Yes? No? Maybe? That's it. That's the whole presentation. I know that the Revelation Tour, 3.5 years ago as I gave it, which I can't believe that's 3.5 years ago. That one had a lot more fun diagrams, but I don't think this one required super fun diagrams. You know what I mean? I think that this one was pretty straightforward. I think that the fact that we can break it down to like 3 outcomes, 4 objectives, and then actually at least provide a problem-solving methodology, at least how we're going through this, the better. The stuff about governance and repositories matters a lot. I don't know if people think that but validation is the thing that pays money. Well, actually, validation doesn't pay money if we don't know how fucking governance works. Does that make sense? Like, all 4 of those things are critical. Do you guys know what I mean? Odin, actually I'm talking to you, Odin, whoever else is here. Like, all 4 of these things could be critical. But the fact of the matter is I'm just blind on number 3, number 4. Odin, I don't know if you have one of those skill sets, but the more clarity that we can get on number 3 and number 4, the better. Because these things here, like download, let me see, let me find those files. Because I can click on these here. Here, I'll post, here, will this click? Oh, now it won't let me do it? It used to let me click these things. Maybe sometimes? Okay, let me... If I post this one here... Okay, it's being weird. Alright, there's that one. Let's see about this one. Oh, look at that. It did get this one right. Okay. This is another one. Okay, I gotta go all the way to the... See, there's Genesis files, and there's this one. This is also Genesis files. I guess, yeah. I guess both of those are Genesis files. Or maybe one is for API nodes, and another is for val nodes. This is a clarification thing. Make sense? And then of course here's the GitHub. And I think there's other files here as well. Right? Well, anyways, legitimately, the fact of the matter is that when I first learned about this problem, I think April 7th, which is when they made the announcement, I then spent all of April 8th doing documentation research on doing notes here. I did 20 pages of notes on getting a validation node running. But the fact of the matter is we're already 2 weeks into this, and soon we're going to be less than 2 months left. Do you know what I mean? As soon as May starts, we have less than 2 months left. Do you know what I mean? They gave us most of April, and now most of April's gone. Right? Time fucking flies. So I'm fucking glad that, even at this stage, I at least now have a piece of hardware and I can get an API node running now. It would have been nicer to try that in the first week, but I didn't know what to do yet because I hadn't done the research yet. Does that make sense? Anyways, I'm assuming that the only people that are still paying attention to this project right now are fucking tough as nails. Does that make sense? All the weak have died, right? Have the weak been culled? Thanks, Seabiscuit. Again, I've already done research, but the more people that can look at this, the better, because it puts more brain power at it. And it makes it more resilient. And it also makes the story better. Do you guys know what I mean? Anyways, this concludes the validation tour. I don't really need to I'm surprised that happened in less than an hour. This is actually 55 minutes. This took me 2 hours this morning, but I think that the participation level was higher, or maybe the excitement level. Are you guys sad today? Don't be fucking sad. Do you see this part that says once we win? You're not saying we're gonna fucking lose. Goodness gracious. To be honest, the fact that the fact that this is happening makes all the delays have an upside. Because do you guys understand that, like, how do we succeeded at Learn Pyre and then find out that, like, we're locked out of validating or something like that? Like, yes, I don't think that, like, I think that when I say people are sad, it's like not enough people actually showed up to this. Like, there's like just not enough bullish sentiment, and maybe that's my fault. I don't know. During the Revelation tour, I want to say it was like 50 people showed up every single day. Like, it was like 250 people showed up. Yeah, I think some people were doubling in attendance and tripling in attendance, but you guys get it. Anyways, all right. I appreciate the participation. Seabiscuit and Odin and whoever else is here. I will write an announcement tomorrow morning. I will include this PDF in the announcement. The PDF, you need to open it in a browser. You can't look at it in Adobe because it'll truncate it. I will post the YouTube link. And we're going to make it. We're going to make it. Because even if... we have multiple contingencies at every single step. For every outcome, we have multiple contingencies. So I'll be very, very transparent about that as I need to be, right? As soon as I can get an API node running, I'm going to tell you guys, okay? I'm going to write in the chat that we have an API node running, okay? Because that's, like, every single thing that happens that's bullish, it's worth knowing about, right? I hope that makes sense. Okay. Any questions? Because I can stop the stream now. Seeing how it's I can do it again next week, I guess, if more people suddenly take an interest. All right, fantastic. Well, then I will